All right, so we got week 2, homework help number 2. I'm noticing a theme here that you guys don't remember how to solve literal equations. And when I mean that, or when I say that, I mean if we have some kind of equation like we see here, a lot of different variables, but I only want to solve this for x. So I'm just going to pretend that every other value here is not a variable at all, and I'm just going to pretend that it's a number. Although this this one's a little tricky. I think the first thing that I'm gonna do here, and it's nice that we're talking about this after we've done factoring by GCF here, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the 4x and the 3e to the x, or 3ex, and I'm gonna factor x out of this equation. So I'm left with y equals x, and then on the inside 4 plus 3e. And if I don't want this 4 plus 3e to be here, well, let's just divide by 4 plus 3e on both sides, because if I divide and multiply by the same thing, those are going to cross out. So I'm left with x equals y over 4 plus 3e. This one was a little wonky. This one's a little more straightforward. A line has the equation y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. Solve this for x. Well, again, I want everything that's not x away to the other side. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 6 from both sides. Those make inverse operations. So I'm left with this new equation. And I do not want negative 2/3 here. So you could think of this two different ways. You could think of it as dividing by negative 2/3, which is kind of weird. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So you'll notice the 3's up top, the 3's cancel out, the 2's cancel out, the negatives cancel out. But remember, you have to multiply this side by the same thing as well. So I'm just going to leave it like this. My new expression is x is all by itself over here on the right, and I've got negative 3 halves y minus 6. I guess you could distribute. I'm not going to do that. You can just leave it like this. Here, I remember this question. For what value of k does the following equation have no solution? So remember, when we're graphing lines and we're trying to find the solution to a system of equations, there are 3 scenarios. You could have lines where they intersect at one point, and that's your solution. You could have lines that are parallel, and they don't intersect at all, which means there are no solutions. And you could also have the situation where our lines are right on top of each other, so there are infinite solutions. We want the situation where there's no solution, which means I need to create a line that is parallel to this one. So remember, parallel lines have the same exact slope. So what would the slope have to be on this part for these lines to be parallel? Well, the slope I know is the number in front of x. So what would k have to equal for these two lines to be parallel? Well, the only value that works here is k equals 8. Because if k equals 8, I get these two expressions, 8x minus 3 and 8x minus 5, which would have the same exact slope, which means these would be parallel to each other. So 8 is what I'm looking for. And finally, the pressure P in a tire varies directly with the temperature T. At a temperature of 50 degrees, the pressure is 30 pounds per square inch. Which equation correctly models this? So if I see this phrase varies directly, I know that I'm going to have some situation y equals kx, or I guess in this case, because P varies directly with T, that I can really think of it as P equals kt, where k is some constant. Constant. So I know one ratio of degrees to pounds per square inch, or vice versa, pounds per square inch to degrees. Remember, we can kind of rearrange this formula and have k equal to P over T. So what is this ratio? Well, pressure is 30 and temperature is 50. I can simplify this a little bit to be 3/5. So if K is 3/5, that means putting it all together, P would have to be equal to 3/5 T. I guess technically you could write it as 30/50ths T, but I think the answer choices just had it as 3/5 T. And that is your answer. Cool. Thanks.